Chicago! It's Monday night. You know what that means. It's time for Chi-Town Weekly. It is March, and it is madness everywhere. The NCAA men's basketball tournament will be set by this time next week. In the meantime, we've got conference tournaments everywhere. What Illinois teams might be dancing? Who might be at home? Will DePaul ever be worth anything ever again? We will try to answer all those questions, and we'll get some help on that end too. Matthew Garner, our bracketologist expert extraordinaire, will be along with us to break that down and answer all of those things. Personally, I'm hoping to see Loyola make a little bit of a run again, or maybe Northwestern, but both of those guys are very squarely on the bubble. So we will have to figure out what exactly that means for those schools. Illinois, they should be safe. We hope, barring catastrophe later this week. Speaking of catastrophe, the NFL's legal tampering period is open, which means the Bears are open for business, the rest of the NFL is open for business, and there's money flying everywhere. Who got what? Where'd they go? How did they get paid? And what does it all mean for the Bears? We will discuss that as well. And we'll see whatever else craziness comes our way over the next 50-some-odd minutes or so. This is Chi-Town Weekly. Buckling on up, everybody. Let's go. Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome on into Chi-Town Weekly. My goodness, we are going to have a ton of fun on this show tonight. Sorry for the little bit of a delayed start. Had some things going on behind the scenes, but it's all in the effort of trying to make the best possible show for you. And without any further ado, let's jump into this, shall we? It is bracketology season. The March Madness is almost upon us, and that means it's time to talk some college hoops. You know what that means. We've got a guest lined up. Here we go.
Matthew Garner, bracketologist extraordinaire.
And then he comes out with his bracket every year, and gol darn it if it isn't right up there with what the committee actually comes out with.
He loves math.
In all seriousness, I am a math teacher by trade, so this kind of came naturally to me. I've always been big in statistics, but what I do for the bracket itself is I use some algorithms that I've come up with, and then I also use what they call the NCAA evaluation tool called the MET.
The NCAA selection committee, not so much.
Honestly, I can say with full confidence that there was more for me to tear my hair out than what they got right. Being the math teacher that I am, I would give them a C, maybe a B- if I'm feeling generous. But the biggest issue that I saw with the committee is a team like Houston, who was a 5 seed in the South. They had a net rating of 3, which basically means they were the third best team on paper, and they were ranked anywhere between 16 and 20th. That just defies all logic.
He's a supporter of Valpo Hoops.
The inbounds pass to be thrown by Jamie Sykes. Carter pressuring. It's to Jenkins, the Drew for the win! Good! Oh! He did it! Bryce Drew did it! Valpo!
Matthew Garner, breaking down the bracket on Chi-Town Weekly.
Yes. It is bracket time. That means Matthew Garner is here. He is back. He's been on the show before, does an amazing job coming up with his own bracket predicting what the NCAA selection committee will do, and then, of course, critiquing them when they go and just horribly muck it up and just don't follow the rules very well. Matt, welcome back to the show. How are you doing, sir?
Thank you for having me, and I'm doing awesome. Let's get the show started.
Absolutely. So let's dive on in here. We right now, for all intents and purposes, we've got effectively 3 schools in the area right now that are of chief concern. We've got in the Atlantic 10, of course, the Loyola Ramblers. We've got then in the Big Ten, the Northwestern Wildcats and the University of Illinois. Let's start with Loyola. They come in as the Atlantic 10 is beginning their conference tournament this week. They tied for the regular season A10 championship. Tiebreaker, they wind up the number 2 seed. If they win the A10, they're in. If they don't win the Atlantic 10, do they stand any shot of getting into this thing? I think I saw their net rating has them on 90, so they have got to be fringe at best here.
Yeah, they're going to have to win their conference tournament. There's no doubt about that. Quite honestly, if they lose their first round matchup, I don't even know who they're playing yet. I haven't had a chance to look. But if they lose their first round matchup, they're completely done. As of right now, their net rating is actually 84. So it's actually gone up a little bit.
Woohoo!
But when you're number 84 in a 68 team field, that's not good.
Yeah, and they just like the Big Ten utilizes double buys, the Atlantic 10 also uses a double buy system. The first round begins tomorrow night, then the second round is on Wednesday. Loyola has a bye all the way until Thursday night, so they've got a little bit of time before they know who their first opponent will be.
Yeah, I know that I have Richmond and at least Dayton in that field of 68 already. It's going to be really hard for them to get 3 bids out of that little conference.
Yeah, and it's the the Atlantic 10, of course, is a classic mid-major where it's you pretty much if you don't win it, there aren't very many at-large opportunities for those. If they don't, let's say they make it to their conference, to the conference championship, though, is there anything they can do to bolster their ranking or their standing, or is it pretty much win or you're out?
From my perspective, they have to win. But what they could do if they don't happen to win the championship game, they are a Catholic university so what I understand. So my basic thing is they need to be lighting a whole bunch of candles.
All right. Hey, whatever it takes. They had a decent season in the A10, in the Atlantic 10, but some tough lower tier losses, right? You've talked before about the quad 1, the quad 2, the quad 3, the quad 4, how the net gets built and created. Too many quad 4 losses in there basically at this point for them.
Yeah, between quad 2 and quad 3 and quad 4, they have 6 losses. But was more concerning, they only had 1 quad 1 win, which means they had 1 quality win, not on their home floor against a quality opponent. That is not a resume of a tournament team, in my opinion.
Yeah, so basically looking, if I'm doing the math here correctly, which everybody knows with me that could be a chore sometimes. 3 and 6 between quad 1 and quad 2, is that right?
Yeah, I believe that's what I had to.
Okay. All right. So some decent there. All right. So Loyola, an impressive regular season in the Atlantic. They made the jump over from the Valley, a conference with which you are very familiar, I know. Made the jump up from the Valley up to the Atlantic 10 here a couple years ago. Are you surprised at all to see them doing this well in the Atlantic 10 this early?
Not really, because if you look at the net ratings by conference, the Valley and the A10 are very similar in their ratings. I mean, the Missouri Valley Conference was in the top 10 this year out of all conferences, not just mid-majors. And I know that the A10 is right around there too. So, I mean, yeah, they stepped up a little bit, but I didn't expect them to just fall over and die, though, either. Loyola has always had a good program, and Valentine knows what he's doing. He knows how to recruit Chicago.
Absolutely. And that's something that some of the other Chicago schools, frankly, have struggled with. You know, the Chicago public school system for basketball in Chicago is so rich, yet schools like Illinois and schools like Northwestern have struggled to consistently tap into that market. Ayo Dosunmu, of course, the exception there with Illinois from a couple years ago, and now with the Bulls. But let's jump over then and talk Big Ten a little bit. We've got both Northwestern and Illinois made it to the double bye in the Big Ten tournament. They both get to sit back and watch the first couple days in Minneapolis before having to sweat out who it is they're going to play and how they advance. Let's start with Northwestern. Let's start with the purple here. When I look at their net, they are still kind of a fringe team. They're 50th in the net. Looking at your bracket as I pull this back up, and if you're wondering what bracket we're talking about, I did share this on social media. You can find it on Twitter at IESRC or at my own personal handle on Twitter at Adam_Karnick. As we look at your bracket, you have them solidly in. They're a 10 seed right now. How much on the bubble is Northwestern as we get ready to start the Big Ten tournament this week?
Honestly, Northwestern is such an enigma to me. You just said a few seconds ago that they don't have to worry about sweating it out for the first couple rounds of their Big Ten tournament. But if I'm because depending on who they play and what matchup they have up in Minnesota for this tournament, if they lose their first game, I don't know if they're going to be squarely in. I mean, it really just depends on how all of the other tournaments play out. But winning would definitely help their cause at least one game. If they lose their first game, they're going to be in a herd of trouble.
Okay. So they have kind of hurt themselves with their play a little bit now, because I know when you and I were talking to kind of set this up the other night, you had brought up that essentially getting the double bye in the Big Ten makes you very safe for getting into the conference tournament, but Northwestern may be an exception to that rule this year?
It might be an exception to the rule, especially, I mean, history has told us that if you make it into the double bye in the Big Ten tournament, that you're a pretty safe bet. The problem that I've had with this is look how they've been playing lately. They've been beating the decent teams. They've been losing to teams that they shouldn't be losing to. But that net rating of 50 is just absolutely scaring me right now. Usually teams in the 50s don't generally make it, mostly because you have all these different spots filled in from the mid-majors, which are, in like the 1 or 2 or even 300s at this point.
Okay. So very, very sketchy right now. But at the same time, like, if they win the quarter, if they win their first game and they make it then into that would be the semifinal round in the Big Ten tournament, is that enough to make them safe, do you think? Or do they have to make it all the way to the title game before they can really kind of exhale a little bit there?
It all depends on who you ask. What if you think? Well, I think they would be safe if they win one game. The committee, on the other hand, as we all know, the committee has their own mindset about different things. They might still be on the bubble, but they can't definitely hurt themselves with a win.
So just as Al Davis always used to say, just win, baby. Just win.
Exactly.
Don't take the decision out of the committee's hands. Make them force you in by getting that automatic bid. And then that brings us then to Illinois. Now, Illinois has got to be the safest school in the state of Illinois for making this tournament, right? I mean, if
Absolutely.
they could lose in the quarterfinal and you'd still have a heck of a time keeping them out of this thing, right?
With a net rating of what they have been consistently in the polls all year, even if they lose their first game, they'll still be in the tournament. That's more set in stone than anything else. It might be a matter of seeding like 1 or 2 spots down at the most. So they're going to be pretty much locked in anywhere between a 4 and a 5.
That was going to be my next question, because they're right now their net rating is 15. You have them as a 4 seed currently. What's the ceiling? Let's say that they run the table and beat Purdue. I'm gonna go ahead and assume Purdue makes it into the Big Ten championship game there. Let's say that Illinois makes it past them and wins that automatic bid. What's the ceiling as far as seeding is concerned for Illinois in your mind, in your opinion?
I say with everything else that's going on, I mean, you have teams like Houston, you have Tennessee, you have Connecticut, you have North Carolina, who's been playing really hot. I don't see them getting above a 3, even if they win the whole Big Ten tournament. I think their ceiling would be at best mid 3s, probably even staying at a 4, regardless if they win or not.
Okay, and then let's look at it from the other direction. They fall flat on their face in the quarterfinals. Somehow Michigan goes on an insane run and knocks them out in the quarterfinal round. How far can Illinois potentially fall? How much is at stake here for them in this?
I would think their basement would be 5.
Oh, so really they're certainly gonna be only needing to pack their home jerseys for that first weekend.
I would certainly hope so, and I would certainly assume so. I mean, the regular season counts for a lot more than what you do in a conference tournament. The only way the conference tournament makes a huge difference is if you're on the bubble or if you don't have a prayer, unless you actually win that conference tournament. The regular season is basically the biggest proof you can have to see where you're going to land in the NCAA tournament. Either you're going to make it or you're not. And that's where your burden of proof lies.
All right, we're getting some great stuff in the chat room here. By the way, lots of people joining the show. Good evening to everybody. I love seeing the active chat. Ralph Calise wants to know your thoughts on the Pittsburgh Panthers as we're getting ready here over in the ACC.
What's really funny is with them, I had them last week. I had them in the last 4 in. But they've really had a couple bad weeks, and they're now on my list of the next 4 out. So you have the first 4 out. I have Pittsburgh in as 1, 2, 3, 4, like the 6th team out.
Okay, so they've got to have themselves a week here in the ACC tournament to really solidify a spot in there.
Yeah, if they want to have any favors done to them, the ball is in their court. No pun intended, but they have to win out.
All right. And then Mike Pat, who covers the Washington, D.C. area for us, the DMV area, also including then Virginia and that area as well. He comments that their only real hope for representation is James Madison. Do you concur with that, or is there somebody who might surprise here?
The funny thing is about James Madison and other schools like that is, yes, they're really good teams. If we have time, I'm going to talk about Indiana State here in a little bit. But James Madison is one of those teams also. They have really good net rating. They have a really good conference record. They're going to probably barrel through the rest of their tournament since some of the other top seeds in that conference have already been out. But my problem with James Madison, quite frankly, is that they're a mid-major. And as we all know, the committee would rather have a mediocre power school team rather than a pretty decent mid-major team that can actually do some damage in March.
if they get in.
Sure, the name recognition always plays a factor in these decisions for the committee, whether we like them to or not. It always seems to the money seems to rear its ugly head one way or another in these. And then how about Taryn, just throwing this in here in the chat room? How about San Diego State? What do you see for them? They had a pretty nice run, didn't they, last season?
They actually, no, San Diego State screwed me over with my brackets last year because they just went above and beyond what anybody expected of them. I do know that this week they extended their head coach, Brian Dutcher, who used to be on Michigan staff during the final or the Fab Five run. They extended his contract for a couple more years. I have San Diego State in as a 6th seed right now, and they're projected to play, if I can pull this up here real quick, I have them projected to play. Of course, my information is lagging here. I have them playing Grand Canyon University in the first round, in the 6 to the 11 matchup in the first round.
Well, boo San Diego State for messing up your bracket last season. How dare they? How inconsiderate of them.
Actually, let's be more realistic here. How dare Purdue lose in the first round as the number 1 seed last year to really screw up my bracket, because they would have me. I had them winning the whole thing last year. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, yeah, there is that. Purdue is definitely a buyer beware going on with the Boilermakers this year, as you once again have them projected as a 1 seed, but we saw them lose enough questionable games, I think, this regular season to be very cautious with them. So I know Indiana State is kind of like the linchpin right now for your bracket in a lot of ways. Explain why that is.
Indiana State is one of the mid-major teams that, like I said before, has a really high net rating. They only have 1 Quad 4 loss. I don't know if you watched the conference championship yesterday between them and Drake, but that was what March Madness is all about. Drake was up by 18 points in the second half with 10 minutes to go in the game. Indiana State came back and actually led by 3 points with a couple minutes left, but I believe they ran out of gas and Drake ended up winning by 5. But Indiana State is the one team, they have a 29 net rating. I mean, out of 362 teams in Division I, that's outstanding, especially for a mid-major that isn't Gonzaga. What I do like about them, however, is they have the highest efficiency shooting percentage in the country, and they just play so well. I mean, that is a very well-coached team. They switched coaches a couple years ago. They got some guy from Division II named Jock Sturtz, and he has turned that program around in 3 years. And I think that the Valley should be a 2-big lead this year. But as we all know, it's the major versus the mid-majors conversation that they're going to have to sort out on Sunday. If I were anybody in this bracket right now, I would not want to be in Indiana State's shoes because they have to wait a week to find out their fate.
Ugh, miserable. And 29, as we've learned from years past, while 29 is a great net rating to have, we have seen teams with higher net ratings get held out of the tournament. So they're definitely by no means safe.
Correct. I have them in my next 4 out right now. And the reason I have them there, because I'm just guessing what the committee is going to do. If it were me personally doing this and just running by the numbers like I normally would do anyway, they would be a solid in. They would be probably a 10 or a 9 seed.
So if they do get in, then is that and we'll get in some more. We'll get into more of this next week when we actually see the bracket and we can nitpick all the mistakes the committee made. I know that's what we're looking forward to doing. Would they be Would they be a team that, should they get in, would they be a team that you'd be, look out, these guys could go on a run? Oh, did we lose Matt? We may have lost Matt. All right. Well, we will hold that thought for a second here, as I may have lost connection. Well, we will take ourselves a quick break. That was a lot of bracketology to go through, some great stuff. We are going to take a quick break, and then on the flip side, when we come back, Matt's going to stick around. The NFL free agent market kicked off today. The Bears made some moves over the weekend. They made some moves today, and there were a million moves that got made that all have a factor on what the Bears might be able to do. We are going to break a lot of that down. You are listening to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back after this.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph Calise, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate die-hard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports, and I will update you on all that's black and gold. Have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Calise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
Well, what is up, Carolina Nation? This is John Felipe of the Carolina Cast, of course, the podcast of, by, and for the Carolinas, right here on IE Sports, your direct feed for all that is sports. And I'm reminding you to tune in Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern for the latest in Carolina sports, whether it's the Panthers that keep on pounding, the fly natures of the Hornets, the storming Hurricanes, the battle of the Blues with Duke and UNC, the fight of the Clemson Tigers, or the amazing atmosphere of any Carolina college. I'm talking App State, I'm talking ECU. I've got you covered. Once again, tune in for the Carolina Cast with me, John Felipe, Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey there, sports fans. Are you looking for a sports show that maybe isn't 100% about sports?
Then you might want to check out the Sports Couple Perspectives right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Most sports shows cover only scores and stats, and while we're not opposed to that, we dig a little deeper into sports issues and some of the hottest topics in athletics.
In addition to sports, we take a journey through my neck of the woods, pop culture, with movie reviews of both sports and non-sports films.
Speaking of pop culture, make sure to participate in our game nights, where we quiz each other on our specialties, and you, the listeners, can win IE Sports Radio apparel.
We always have a great time learning more about each other's worlds, one show at a time.
So join us each week on the Sports Couple Perspectives, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Matthew Garner, gracious enough to stick with us for the whole show here tonight. So we were having a couple of technical issues. We're gonna choose to blame technology on this one. Want to close the loop a little bit here on the bracketology, Matt, before we jump into NFL free agency. Indiana State, basically, if they get in, you would argue that they're good enough to get in. Should the committee put them in, do you think that they're good enough to be a Cinderella to knock some teams out in this tournament, make some noise?
Well, you nailed it when you said if they get in. That's going to be the first and foremost thing. But if they do get in, they can do some damage. And if I were a higher rated team in this case, I wouldn't want to play them because they know what they can do. They played Michigan State earlier in the year, who was also going to be a tournament team. They lost by, I believe, 11 or 12. They played Alabama on the road and didn't get necessarily blown out, but they have blown out some really good teams, other mid-majors, and they just barreled through the valley. So when you're hot, you're hot. And when it comes tournament time, as we all know, with San Diego State last year being a 9 seed making it into the Final Four, anything can happen if the cards are played right.
Timing is everything, regardless of what it is, what the sport is. And that, speaking of timing, in the NFL, if you are an NFL free agent, well, today was your day. The legal tampering period opened up in NFL free agency, and seemingly every team got involved. The Bears had already made some moves last week with applying the franchise tag to Jalen Johnson. They then turn around and signed him to a long-term deal. So Johnson is not going anywhere. They found their replacement for Eddie Jackson in signing street free agent Kevin Byard away from the Philadelphia Eagles. And then earlier today, announcing the intention to sign DeAndre Swift, also from the Eagles. So they've got now a starting corner locked up for the long term with Jalen Johnson. They've got Eddie Jackson's replacement, the center fielder. Now that position seemingly secured for at least a season. Byard's deal is only 2 years. I'd have to pull up the contract to be certain, but I believe the overwhelming majority of the guaranteed money is just in the first year. And then DeAndre Swift, it's a 4-year deal, or excuse me, it's a 3-year deal, but it's a running back. You know that those are always short shelf life kind of deals. I know which deal I'm most excited about. I know which exciting I'm most excited about. Matt, which one are you most excited about when you see those three, hear those three?
As you know, we have talked exclusively and extensively about the Bears almost every day for the last 3 or 4 years, Adam. So, you know where my loyalties are with Jalen Johnson and the fact that I have screamed in text many times to sign this man, and they have. So I'm very, very happy that they got a deal done. However, what I'm really happy about is, quite honestly, is the safety signing, to be honest with you. I mean, yes, we're replacing Eddie Jackson, proven defender, proven person in the safety position. And quite frankly, even though it's only 2 years, that's a gamble I'd be willing to take just to see what he still has left. And no, I'm very happy with that part. And quite honestly, having DeAndre Swift and Herbert in your backfield is going to be a nice little combination of a weapon to have on the offensive end.
Yeah, and just as you were saying that about Kevin Byard, Mike Pat puts in the chat room that Byard is a top-notch center fielder as a safety.
Mm-hmm.
The Bears,
he's a ball hawk. For sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the Bears secondary, I mean, I felt this way coming into last season. I absolutely feel this way now. The secondary is the strength of this entire team. Mm-hmm. You look across the board, the 5 starters, because at this day and age in the NFL, you have to count nickel corner basically as a starter. Your most defenses are coming out in a nickel package with only the 2 linebackers. you look across the board, there's not a weakness in that secondary. I mean, you're basically calling a guy that made the all-rookie team a season ago in Terrell Stevenson as the weak spot right now. The Jalen Johnson signing, I was so excited because I was worried that tagging him, they were going to upset him. They were going to upset the apple cart there by tagging him and at the last second preventing him from reaching free agency. That it was going to be, he came so close to free agency. They had made him an offer before the trade deadline that he felt was not adequate. He got asked today in his press conference what the difference was between the deal he got offered right before the trade deadline and the deal that he signed, how big of a difference was. And he just gave a wry smile and he said, "Oh, it was big. It was big." So I was worried that that applying the tag, they were going to lose him. So to 48 hours later, have him signed to an extension. And it was actually a lower total dollar amount than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be north of $80 million. It came in at 76, basically $19 million a year. So for what that's worth, for what it's worth, that is a very team friendly deal. As oh no, we lost Matt Garner. He just had technology issues continue here. So we will press forward here. We'll see if Matt's able to get reconnected here. But the Jalen Johnson signing to me is easily the one that excites me the most. The Kevin Byard, I feel it's absolutely an upgrade from Eddie Jackson. I so wished that Eddie Jackson would have blossomed and grown in that free safety role in the cover 2 defense. I thought that the cover 2 was the perfect defense for him, and he showed flashes, but he never really took off. I do think that Byard is an upgrade. I was hoping for the Xavier McKinney, the safety out of New York. I would have loved to have seen him sign over with Chicago. So the Byard signing, I can't get crazy excited over that one, but it's absolutely an upgrade. As I think Matt Garner has reconnected, and I think we're back with him here. Are you there, Matt? Oh, we may still be having some connection issues there, so we're working that out. That was not my first choice for the Bears to go after Byard, but it is still an improvement. And it's just a 2-year deal. Good evening, Wesley. You're just in time to be breaking down the free agency signings and deals and wheelings and dealings that the Bears have done. The Byard signing, he was not my first choice for free safety, but it's still an improvement, and it's only a 2-year deal. So I'm not disappointed with the deal at all. DeAndre Swift, that one did take me by surprise. That it did take me by surprise a little bit. We had heard a lot of chatter the last couple of days that the Bears were pursuing both Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs. And the question was going to be, what would they command as far as cash? And would they be willing to sign at less than $10 million a year? And the answer turned out to be no, that Saquon Barkley signed with his division rival, the Philadelphia Eagles, and then Josh Jacobs actually signed with the Bears' divisional rival, the Green Bay Packers. Suffice to say, I am not at all happy with that. I'm also not happy that the Packers got Xavier McKinney, the free safety I wanted for the Bears. what are the Packers doing being involved in free agency? First of all, I don't like that. And then second of all, what are they doing going after quality players?
How dare they?
Exactly. How dare they? Oh, good, you're back. Oh, good. You fixed the connection issues. Yeah. I
For
don't
now,
like
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, we'll let's see. I got some ways here to keep that going. So, as far as DeAndre Swift is concerned, I like the signing. I don't love it. Frankly, anytime you're going after a veteran running back, you're overpaying anymore. You can get 80 to 90% of the same production for 10% of the cost. So I'm not thrilled. I'm not head over heels in love, but DeAndre Swift is a capable running back. He's a good running back. I do feel he's an upgrade over Khalil Herbert. What do you think, Matt?
I believe that we're going to see a platoon role for that. Like I just put in the chat, running backs are a dime a dozen. I mean, look at this time a year ago when all these different running backs like Derrick Henry and Swift and all these people were really they're taking to social media and complaining that, hey, we're not going to get paid ever again. And they were complaining about it. So what you're seeing today is that all these different running backs, I don't care who you're talking about, they're following the team that's going to give them the most money for their buck because they know they have a shelf life.
Oh yeah, and frankly, I can't blame a player for doing that. You as a professional athlete, first of all, and second of all, as a professional NFL player, you are never more than one play away from not only your career ending, but your life being forever altered. So you want to go for that bag, go for the bag. I cannot fault anybody for that.
I mean, yes, they get paid millions of dollars and everything, but they're setting themselves up financially for the rest of their lives.
Yeah,
I can't argue with that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that's the trade-off. That's the payoff you get there. So as Wes is pointing out in the chat room, you know, that Swift, a 4.48 40-yard dash isn't the blazing speed that necessarily you were hoping for, but he's got speed that plays. When he gets the uniform on, the speed can still function and work, and he is capable out of the backfield. He protects the ball well. Very, very few fumbling issues, and he can come out of the backfield and be a capable receiver. You know, as a rookie.
I just had an epiphany.
What's that?
The reason why they signed Swift so they can actually run the ball inside more is because you're not going to have Justin Fields on the team to run on the outside anymore.
We're going to get to that. Yes, that is going to be a topic of conversation, a very difficult topic of conversation for a lot of Bears fans, judging by the boards and the social media feeds. Holy cow, is that a difficult conversation? We're going to get there. Before I do want to close the book a little bit on Swift, though. Despite, you know, he had a kind of a rough intro there in the NFL. His first game I do like, he's got NFC North bloodlines. He was a Lions draft pick originally. I had somebody point out, you're having the wonderful carousel go around. Swift became expendable in part because they got David Montgomery from the Bears. And now Swift comes in to theoretically fill the void that David Montgomery left. So there's a wonderful symmetry to that. It's going to make it very interesting, the both times that the Bears and the Lions play each other, that the two of them are going to be doing the Spider-Man meme of, hey, wait a minute, it's you. But I think Swift gives some good versatility out of the backfield. He's not going to be a liability on passing downs the way Khalil
Herbert, yeah.
I'm shocked that's the first time I did that. The way Khalil Herbert has been, where it's...
Actually, if you see how fast Khalil Mack is coming off that line, why not put him back in the running back position and barrel over people?
You know, And a Mike Allstott role, I wouldn't want him running, between the 20s. But, man, you get down to the goal line, oh, man, that could be fun.
Exactly.
Oh man, the wheels in my head are turning now. Ooh, you've given me something to chew upon. I like it. I like it. But the other big thing that was happening then today in free agency and becoming finalized and formalized, the quarterback movement. Baker Mayfield re-signed with Tampa Bay. Kirk Cousins signed what is in my mind an insane contract with the Atlanta Falcons. Gardner Minshew signing up with Vegas. And Russell Wilson signing with Pittsburgh. I know Ralph was crazy excited when that happened. He started blowing up the station chat line when that happened. He was so excited over that signing. That Kirk Cousins deal to me, I can't. First of all, the fact that it's 4 years. Second of all, the fact that it's only $20 million less than what Lamar Jackson is getting. That's insane. But
Adam, in the last few years, how many moves has Atlanta made that's made sense?
I mean, in retrospect, trading out of the number 1 pick to avoid excuse me, that was the Chargers. Never mind.
Yeah.
The Michael Vick thing was interesting. The Falcons always have kind of been a weird one.
I mean, I guess from my point of view, they didn't really have a quarterback for last year. But I don't think Kirk Cousins has 4 seasons left in him. I don't know if he has 2.
2 would have been the max I would have given him. That is the max I would have done that. But where this all, as we pull this in for the Bears, the trade market for Justin Fields is almost gone at this point. And it's hard reality time at this point. And I know there's I know there's a lot of fans that are still making the argument that, first of all, he's not on the trade block. Everything that we are hearing from the professional reporters is that he is on the trade block. Well, this is lying season. Yes, you're right. This is lying season. But the knots into which so many fans want to twist themselves for this narrative, it's ridiculous that somehow allowing teams to believe that Fields is on the trade block when he's really not in some way makes the first overall pick more valuable, and you can't follow it. The logic fails somewhere in there. You can have conspiracy theories that you can follow and see how it all lines up. That one doesn't. It just doesn't. Where there is smoke, a lot of times there's fire. Sometimes there's not, I'll grant you. But to me, this is a time where there's smoke, there's fire. It's the simplest answer is oftentimes the right one. And that's the way I feel about this one. He is on the trade market.
Yeah, my biggest concern is I don't know what the market's going to look like now that all these different people, where they said Fields can go here, Fields can go to Pittsburgh. I mean, they've already found their people. So I don't know what, if anything, they're going to get out of them now. But what really makes me upset, and I have resigned myself to the fact that the Bears are going to take Caleb Williams. I am not sure if that is the most best thing. But what I'm really starting to get irritated with, and this might sound petty, is that a couple weeks ago Ryan Poles said that he's going to do what's best for Justin, and I don't see anything happening with that. Either pursue something more than what you have, and maybe obviously we don't know everything that's going on behind the scenes, but pursue something more for him, or keep him and do something else with your quarterback position with the draft.
Yeah, the way I interpreted that line when I heard "want to do right by Justin," to me that meant I want to send him somewhere where he's going to be the starter. We want to send him somewhere where he can continue to have the opportunity to develop as a starting quarterback in the NFL. That's how I interpreted that when I heard that. And there were a lot of other more informed NFL people than myself that interpreted it in a very similar way. So I don't think I'm completely off base with that. Your market is gone at that point. If that's what you're trying to do, you are down to, at this point, the Minnesota Vikings, which I just can't see that happening, and then the Denver Broncos, and maybe the New York Giants, and that is it. That's your trade market at this point. And Denver doesn't have a second-round pick. They do have multiple third-round picks. So that's
Denver doesn't have much of anything. They're still over the cap.
Right. Denver's got to make all the rigmarole work. Minnesota, the fear, of course, behind trading Justin is that he proves you wrong and he becomes what you thought he was. And frankly, I'd still love to see that. I want the kid to succeed. I want him to do well. But I'm at the point where I understand that it's far more likely that he doesn't than he does. But if you trade him to Minnesota and he does, oh my God, then you absolutely unequivocally must hit on whomever you take with your quarterback. That you unequivocally must identify the right guy, because if you're even 10% wrong, you're done. You're screwed. So I don't see a trade happening to the Vikings. So that leaves the Giants. And maybe we haven't heard anything about the Giants being linked to Fields up to this point. Now, obviously, things can change, but it would be coming out of left field.
Right. I mean, I have read reports lately that the general manager and the ownership is done with Daniel Jones. Brian Daboll has a pretty decent offensive mindset when he actually has talent on his team that can do that. So I could see that it being a pretty decent fit for him, but I don't know what you're going to get in return from the Giants that's going to be worth anything. Definitely not a first rounder.
Oh, that ship has sailed. First of all, the Giants' first-round pick is number 6. There's no way they're trading you that. And even just from there, we just saw Mac Jones go for a 6th-round pick. Now, obviously, that's to go be a backup. In this instance, Fields is at least nominally competing for the starting job, so I could see it being worth more there, but it's still... At this point, I feel like a 3rd is the absolute best the Bears could hope to get for Justin Fields, which is disappointing, because it was just a couple weeks ago that we were thinking that the 3rd-round pick might be the floor of the trade, and now it's absolutely the ceiling. So,
quite frankly, I don't know if they'll even get anything from him, or they'll have to just outright release him.
I'd be very surprised if they outright release him. It might be the right thing to do, because my biggest fear, and we're going to get into this a little bit more when we're not right up against the end of the show. My biggest fear is that Fields and whatever quarterback they pick, whether it's Williams, May, McCarthy, Penix, the LSU kid,
Jaden Daniels.
Thank you. Names are just escaping me left, right, and center. That they have Fields and the rookie going into mini camps and training camps together. And to me, I just view that as a recipe for disaster for the long-term health of the Bears in 2024 and beyond. I think that would
I mean, that's just going to be drama.
Yeah, way too much. I mean, I joked last year about the telenovela writers coming to observe the Bears to get story ideas. Man,
that wouldn't be a joke anymore.
Hard Knocks would have a field day with that if that were going on. So yeah, just lots of scary going on there. All right, that is going to do it for this episode because we're right up against it, and Taryn Rodriguez is ready to tell us all about the Loyola Chicago men's volleyball team, which had another solid week of play, handling number 15 Princeton earlier today as the Ramblers are getting ready for the NCAA tournament there. Huge shout-outs and thank yous. First of all, to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. Find them at planetjerky.net. Free shipping on all orders of $50 and above. You will not be disappointed with whatever you get. And then also Seal the Deal Wax Seals with Cecilia B. Find them on Seal the Deal _Wax Seals on Instagram. Also on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals. Thank you, Matt Garner, for hanging out and talking to Bracketology, talking to some Bears. This was wonderful. I love chopping it up like this. This was fantastic. So thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime, please, anytime. You are welcome here. Thank you to Larry B. All the hard work you do behind the scenes, sir, and for hopping into the chat room with us tonight. Thank you to everybody else in the chat room. Patty Bags, Mike Back, Taryn Rodriguez, Ralph Coles, West Trueblood, Mom, Jen B, everybody for hanging out with us in the chat room. I really appreciate your support. Finally, thank you for listening. Whether it was here live tonight on Monday night on Spreaker, or whether you were catching the show later on as a podcast on Podcast Addict, YouTube Podcasts, Apple, Google, wherever, Spotify, wherever you find podcasts, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Spread the love. Let somebody know that you like the show, that you listen. That would be the best way that you could say thank you to me or you're welcome to me. I really would appreciate that. Next week, Matt will be back to break down the bracket. We will have all kinds of fun. Until then, see you next week.